I never thought silence could be so loud. The day she packed her bags, she didn't scream, she didn't cry, she just walked out, leaving behind a house filled with echoes and unanswered questions. For weeks, I replayed every memory, every smile, every promise, searching for the moment everything shattered. And just when I thought I'd buried the pain, 2 months later she returned, with a truth so heavy it broke me all over again. But this time, I wasn't the same man she left behind. This time, I was ready to face what silence had been hiding all along. My name is Daniel Carter. For years, I believed in quiet love, the kind built not on fireworks, but on small gestures and steady trust. I met Emily when we were both 22, fresh out of college, uncertain of the world but certain about each other. She was laughter where I was calm, sunshine in a life that had seen too much rain. I worked in architecture, she taught art to children. We built a life of slow mornings and shared dreams, the kind people envy but rarely see up close. Our home sat at the edge of Willow Creek, a small town with winding roads, familiar faces, and whispers that carried fast. Every Sunday, we'd walk through the park, hands brushing, talking about the future. A little house by the lake. Maybe a child one day. A garden. A life. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew us. But sometimes betrayal doesn't knock on your door, it seeps in quietly, through cracks you never noticed. It starts with small absences. A late return. A distant look. A phone face down. You convince yourself it's stress, work, life, anything but what your gut is screaming. I told myself love was trust. And trust meant not questioning. Until the silence grew louder. One evening, as I prepared dinner, I realized she hadn't smiled in days. The laughter that once filled our kitchen had faded. She'd grown careful with her words, almost rehearsed. I asked if something was wrong. She said no, just tired. But her eyes told another story. Over the next few weeks, distance replaced affection. She began spending weekends, helping a friend with a project. I wanted to believe her. After all, Emily wasn't just my wife, she was my best friend. You don't doubt your best friend. You don't want to. Then came the storm. A Thursday night. I remember it clearly. The rain lashed against the windows as she walked in, soaked and trembling. She didn't say a word. She simply placed a letter on the table, her wedding ring on top, and whispered, "I'm sorry." Then she left. No fight. No explanation. Just the sound of the door closing on everything we built. In the days that followed, I became a ghost in my own home. Friends called, but I ignored them. Work piled up. The house was too quiet, every room a reminder of what used to be. I tried to move on, but how do you move on when you don't even know why? People talk. In small towns, they always do. Some said she'd found someone else. Others whispered about money, lies, secrets. I tuned them out, clinging to the hope that someday I'd understand. That someday, she'd tell me why. Then came the divorce papers. Neat. Cold. Final. I signed them with a hand that barely stopped shaking. And just like that, 8 years of love ended, not with betrayal I could see, but with silence I couldn't escape. But the truth has a way of finding you. It waits in shadows, patient and cruel. And when it finally knocks, it never asks if you're ready. 2 months passed. Enough time for the whispers to fade, for people to stop asking questions they never really cared about. I went back to work, buried myself in blueprints and deadlines, pretending that structure could heal chaos. Then, one evening, as I walked out of the office, I saw her. Emily. Standing across the street, wrapped in a gray coat, eyes hollow, face pale. For a moment, time folded in on itself. The city noise dimmed. And I felt that familiar ache, the one that sits between love and resentment. She didn't speak. Just gestured toward a small cafe nearby. Against every instinct, I followed. We sat by the window, steam fogging the glass. The air was thick with everything unsaid. I waited for her to explain, to apologize, to give me something, anything, to make sense of the wreckage she'd left behind. But she just stared at her hands. Finally, she said, "I need to tell you the truth." Her voice trembled. Mine stayed silent. She told me about the months leading up to her leaving. About late-night calls she hid, meetings she never mentioned. My heart sank, certain I was about to hear the name of another man. But the truth she revealed was far crueler than infidelity. She'd been diagnosed with leukemia. A rare form. Aggressive. She didn't tell me because she couldn't bear the thought of watching me suffer beside her. She'd seen what illness had done to her mother, how it turned love into pity, marriage into caretaking. She wanted me to remember her whole, not broken. So she chose to leave. To vanish quietly, carrying the weight of both her pain and mine. She filed for divorce to free me, to give me a chance at life unchained by her suffering. I sat frozen. The woman I'd thought had betrayed me, had been protecting me. But love built on silence still breaks hearts. Her choice didn't erase my pain, it deepened it. She'd spent the last 2 months in treatment. Alone. Fighting. Surviving. And now, she said, she didn't know how much time she had left. But she wanted to explain. To ask for forgiveness. Not for leaving, but for loving me enough to go. My chest tightened, breath caught somewhere between anger and grief. How do you forgive someone who broke your heart to save it? I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stared at the woman who'd once been my everything, now a stranger carrying the truth I'd begged the universe to give me. Outside, the sky turned crimson, the day slipping quietly into night, just as she had slipped quietly out of my life. Days turned into weeks as we tried to rebuild what was left, not as husband and wife, but as two souls tethered by unfinished love. I drove her to treatments, sat by her hospital bed, listened as she spoke of dreams she'd never see realized. There were good days, soft laughter, shared coffee, quiet understanding. And there were bad ones, when pain gripped her body, when fear clouded her eyes. But through it all, the silence between us was no longer heavy. It was sacred. One night, as rain tapped gently on the window, she looked at me and whispered, "I never stopped loving you. I just didn't want you to remember me like this." I told her she never gave me a choice. That love doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for presence. And though the words cracked in my throat, they were the truest I'd ever spoken. A month later, I found myself standing in a hospital room, holding her hand as monitors hummed softly. The room smelled of antiseptic and endings. Her breathing slowed, eyes fluttering open just long enough to meet mine. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. "I know," I whispered. And then, she was gone. No dramatic music, no last-minute miracle. Just stillness. The kind that comes after a storm. The kind that feels like both peace and punishment. I walked out into the night, rain soaking through my coat, her absence pressing against me like a shadow that would never lift. I realized then, betrayal wears many faces. Sometimes it's deceit. Sometimes it's sacrifice. And sometimes it's love wearing a mask so heavy it breaks the one who wears it. It's been a year since Emily passed. The house by Willow Creek stands quiet but no longer empty. Her paintings still hang on the walls, bright splashes of color against muted walls, reminders that love, even when silent, leaves traces. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about understanding. Emily's silence wasn't meant to wound, it was her way of protecting the one thing she cherished most, my happiness. But in shielding me from pain, she gave me a wound only truth could heal. Now when I walk by the lake, I don't carry anger. I carry gratitude. For the years we had. For the love that was real, even when hidden behind heartbreak. For the lesson she left me with, that the hardest truths often come dressed as betrayal, and the deepest love sometimes means letting go. So if you've ever been left without explanation, if you've ever sat in the quiet, questioning your worth, your past, your pain, remember this. Sometimes, silence isn't the absence of love. Sometimes, it's love's last defense. And maybe, just maybe, the people who leave aren't abandoning you, they're saving you in ways you may never understand. Broken heart, would you forgive someone who broke you to protect you?